spend in a miserable way.
Draft of Green New Deal calls for jobs but omits ban on fossil fuel. Cleveland.com. Washington. New guaranteed jobs, health care, and housing are in a draft of the Green New Deal environmental package set to be unveiled by Democrats this week, but the proposal doesn't explicitly include the ban on fossil fuels called for by some supporters. Instead, the draft of the much-anticipated resolution being crafted by Democrats Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a New York representative, and Ed Markey, a Massachusetts senator, calls for 100% power from clean, renewable, and zero-emission energy sources. While the proposal, Corbin Trent, a spokesman for Ocasio-Cortez, said the document has yet to be completed and is still changing. But the 5-page, "This is the most ambitious climate and economic justice plans for Congress in our lifetime," said Stephen O'Hanlon, a spokesman for Sunrise Movement, the grassroots group that has partnered with Ocasio-Cortez to push for the Green New Deal and did not provide the document. "We want to be clear, the draft framework, a non-binding resolution that aims to firm up what had been a loosely defined legislative wish list to halt global warming, calls for a series of Green New Deal projects. Those include Others tenets of the proposal range from grand massive growth in clean U.S. manufacturing, removing pollution byproducts and greenhouse gas emissions from that sector as much as technologically feasible to funding to harden and lessen the impacts of climate change, to building the smart grid, and cleaning up hazardous waste sites and restoring threatened lands." The proposal didn't specify funding sources, but the draft cites a landmark climate report released late last year by the Trump administration that said climate change is expected to cause more than $5 trillion in lost economic output in the U.S. by the end of the century. Accounting for the omission of a specific ban on fossil fuels is a nod to moderates who feared it was unfeasible and seen as too extreme, and was a nod to labor unions who had concerns with the language. At the same time, while the resolutions contain bold and important proposals, they remain incomplete in addressing the climate crisis comprehensively due to their failure to address fossil fuel production. David Turnbull, a spokesman for the environmental group Oil Change International, said by email, "Our climate crisis requires that we stand up to the fossil fuel industry and ramp down our fossil fuel production, not allow it to continue its planned expansion," he said. Any comprehensive
raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot pot, fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park,